Good evening. Welcome to Coach World TV. My name is Terry Yoffe, and tonight as my guest, my actually very special guest, is Laura Rivchun. Laura is president of Chrysalis.
Chrysalis, yes,
Chrysalis.
that's
My
okay.
God, I can't say it right. Chrysalis Career Coaching, and she is the president. And she specializes in resume development and interview preparation. You know, when I think about that, I think, my God, the world needs Laura. Honest to God, you know, as a coach, and I think we talked about it at dinner, everybody needs to have a great resume and understand coaching, wow, understands interview skills.
Well,
So,
yeah, it's your calling card. Your calling card is when you go into an interview, being prepared and being able to sell yourself through your resume in the 20 to 30 seconds that a resume is read by a professional. So it's very, very key, yes.
and so how many people really understand about this philosophy that they have to have a resume that doesn't just list things, you know, in their history, or they go on an interview really unprepared?
I would say the majority of people don't really understand how important it is that they have limited time where they can brand themselves and show themselves and how key that is. So it's really educating people in the importance of being prepared and doing their research and showing their talent and their uniqueness and skills. Most people are not prepared for that at all.
I bet. So, Laura, tell us a little bit about. Let's break it down if that's okay.
Sure.
Talk about the whole resume development. You know, I know, you know, people put this thing together that they call a resume, and all it does is talk about, I worked here, this is what
Right.
I did, then I worked here, and this
Right.
is what I did,
Right.
and that's what they hand in. But that's not really what it means, is it?
No, that's really, in many ways, that's more like a laundry list.
Okay.
Right.
Get
And
it.
really what a resume should do is really highlight your uniqueness and accomplishments. What sets you apart from everybody else who's interviewing for that position. And that's very hard because that's, we said at dinner, that takes being able to be objective and take a step back and look at your talent, your unique talents, which is very hard for most people to do. It really is.
It is for, I think, all of us across the board. So, how can people start to really develop a resume that is going to be a wow factor when they go in to meet some possible company that they might want to work for?
Well, they really need to list, to really figure out what their uniqueness is and what their accomplishments. A resume should really be more accomplishment driven than just the functions that they performed at that particular job. And sometimes it takes someone who is much more objective on the outside, like a coach or a resume, professional resume writer, to help them with that. And it really takes time to uncover exactly how they added to the bottom line at their company.
Okay, so give us some examples of what a good resume might read like. I mean, we don't have it to show you, but
Well,
talk
the,
to
the,
it a
the
little
key
bit.
things, first of all, I always tell people, I always tell clients, no one really cares about an objective. A resume should have a very strong, solid summary. That's kind of your story, in a snapshot story of you.
So they should have a summary.
There should be a summary, although some people think that's a moot point, having summary. Definitely do not have an objective. But a summary that in like 3 to
Okay.
5 sentences really highlights who they are and how they've added to the bottom line in their career or in their last position, and the position that they're going for. And it really should be more about their accomplishments, something that really pops on the resume, something that pops on the paper, because after all, when someone is, a potential employer is reading a resume, they give it about 20 to 30 seconds to read
Right,
it.
exactly.
So they want to see where you worked, how long you were there, what you did, and how you made the difference. And that has to stand out on really a piece of paper, which is flat. it's not, it can't
I
speak
understand.
about, it
Right.
doesn't have any depth.
Right.
So that's what makes it very difficult.
So do you find that people put on resumes objective?
Yes, very often.
You know, that's so interesting because I haven't had a resume in a really long time.
You should be grateful.
But you know, people used to put objective. I am looking for a job in blah blah blah.
Right. Well, that's a very good point you bring up, because I tell people no one really cares what you want to do. They want to know how you're going to add to the bottom line. They want to know what you've done. And an objective does not really, it does not really tell that story. It's the summary that does. And the summary should not, I did one of my blogs, I did write a resume, not a novel. A resume should not be a novel. It should not be pages and pages long. People lose interest when they're reading it.
Right. So from the interviewer's perspective, what they're looking at, what I like to say, see the radio station WIIFM, what's in it for me?
Right.
So the interviewer is thinking, okay, what's in it for me to be sitting here talking to you, and what are you going to bring for me that I can hire you?
Absolutely, absolutely, because when looking for work, what people have to realize is that it's not just them looking for a job. There's tons of people behind them, someone who may even be far more qualified, and you have to consider presentation, so you really have to go in looking your very best. And that the first of that is on the resume, on the piece of paper, and then it's wowing them in the interview.
So when you say summary, well, what would the summary be when just, I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here,
Right.
but you know, what type of summary would it be?
Well, a summary should really include, it should have some very meaty adjectives that describe you, and I don't mean describe you by saying I'm a hardworking individual. That's expected that you're hardworking. It should say something more unique. For instance, if I were putting together a resume and I've been an executive recruiter, I would want to say that I have great assessment skills, intuitive, the things that are needed to perform that type of position. And I would want, in a summary, it should also include measurables, something that is very specific, that someone can look at, that's very tangible and say, aha, I see that you really added to the bottom line by you brought in a new client, a significant new client, or you you exceeded expectations as far as, you know, bringing in revenue. So something that's very tangible is very important.
And when you go to the resume itself, you know, I was in advertising sales, so you'd say, you know, was so-and-so director at such and such a company, and I brought in $20 million additional sales.
That's impressive.
Or in a year's period, I was able to secure 10 new clients.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
In the measurable results?
Exactly.
That there's something tangible.
Something tangible is when you're in hiring mode, how have you added to the bottom line? Did you bring in a new client? Did you save the company money? Did you make the company money? Did you save a client? These are things that are very attractive for an employer to hire. They're not just going to hire you because you have a nice personality. It doesn't hurt, but
not any longer.
no, right, unfortunately.
Not any longer. So definitely developing a resume that's solid, that says something other than I was traffic manager at.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. It doesn't attract anyone's attention at all. What attracts attention is uniqueness and results. You have to put results, and it's not always easy for people to find that. So many clients I've worked with, I've asked, well, what have you accomplished in this position? And they're clueless. They can't see it because they're too close to it. So that's why sometimes they need somebody who's in their corner, who's worked with them, or who really is their champion, or someone who's objective about it.
Right. And it's really not unusual. I mean, we all have done a million jobs, and if you ask a lot of people, oh, I don't know, I was good at what I did.
Right.
I did my job.
Right.
You know, and people don't stop to think about, my God, what value did I add to the company I worked for?
No, they don't, and I really haven't been able to figure that one out, why they haven't.
It's universal. I work with clients, and certainly when we go through transitions or interviewing, and I ask them to look at what are your accomplishments,
Right.
what are your challenges, what are your strengths,
Right.
you know, what are your skills. Oh, and that is the hardest thing
Stumps
for
them.
them to do. They
It
have
is.
to do it
It
because
is.
I ask for it. But
Right.
you'd be surprised
Right.
that it takes them a while to even get to that place where they actually do it.
Right.
And they struggle with it.
They do. I find that people, for the most part, tend to undersell themselves. I don't think it's something that they consciously do. And I also think that if people put down something that's an accomplishment or something they're super proud of, they tend to feel that they're boasting and they're being obnoxious about it. I've heard so many clients say that to me, and it's a shame because they're really doing themselves more harm than anything. So people tend to go the other way.
Yeah, I think, yes, I agree. And so what do you think that's about? That people don't know how to stand up and say, let me tell you what great things I did for the company I worked for.
They're uncomfortable doing it. They're just very uncomfortable doing it. As I said before, they just think that if they do it, that they are going to be looked upon as being obnoxious and overly confident. And so I think what people do is the opposite. They don't look like they're confident enough. And it's not translated on paper, and it's not translated in the interview, which is really what it takes. It's really what it takes.
So true. And the other part of that is when you ask people to look at themselves, to take care of themselves, they think of it as selfish rather than self-interest.
That's
People
very
have a
important.
very hard time separating, well, aren't I selfish?
Right.
Rather than self-interest, which is taking care of you in a very positive way, and people look at it as selfish.
I would agree with that.
And
And I think it's a time when you really have to really be kind. I did a blog last night about being kind. If you're looking for a job, be kind to yourself. Take a step back. Do the things that you need to do to recharge. And
sorry.
it's
I'm sorry.
it's
Long
only
day.
8 o'clock.
I know. I am so
It's
sorry.
no, that's okay. It's very hard for people to give themselves permission to boast about themselves, to look at themselves in a good light. Not everyone, but a lot of people, and to really take care of themselves, do what they have to do to move forward in a very positive way when it comes to their career, when it comes to work.
Yes, and you use the word boast. People find if I say things great, I'm, like you said, I'm boasting, I'm overconfident, instead of using words that make them shine.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that, wow, yeah, I was of great value to the company I worked for, and this is what I did. You know, that's a perspective rather than, oh God, that's boastful, or it's buying. I'd rather be humble, you know, and kind of shrink like a violet rather than
Exactly.
sit
Yeah.
there and
Exactly.
you know, they think it's a puffed chest.